Rewriting Your Story: The Power of Resilience in Entrepreneurship. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, this isn't the story I was supposed to be living? I know I have, and I'm willing to bet most of us have had that moment, standing at some unexpected crossroads, wondering how we ended up there, and more importantly, wondering if we can ever find our way to where we actually want to be. Today, I want to share some extraordinary insights I gathered from interviewing Brandi Moles, a remarkable entrepreneur and visionary whose journey exemplifies what happens when we refuse to let our past dictate our future. Brandi isn't just another success story, she's a force of nature who has fundamentally changed how thousands of women see themselves and their potential. Through her Serve Scale Soar registered trademark platform, she's created a movement that transforms struggling entrepreneurs into confident business owners who design lives on their own terms. Her brutal honesty about her own setbacks, coupled with her practical wisdom, makes her exactly the guide we need in this conversation about resilience. But first, let's be honest about something. We live in a world obsessed with origin stories. Where did you come from? What advantages did you have? What disadvantages held you back? We're constantly categorizing people based on their starting points. And there's some logic to that. Your beginnings matter, they shape you, they give you certain tools, certain wounds, certain perspectives. But here's what they don't do: they don't determine your destination. When I interviewed Brandi Moles, she shared something that stopped me in my tracks. The day I realized my past was a chapter, not the whole book, she said, was the day I finally started writing the story I actually wanted to live. This isn't just feel good talk. This is practical wisdom backed by real world evidence. Consider Brandi Passante, who grew up in a hardworking California family before becoming one of the most recognized faces on Storage Wars. Before the cameras and fame, she was working behind the scenes with her partner in the storage auction business. Nothing in her background suggested she'd become a television personality. But that's exactly what happened. What's fascinating about Brandy's journey isn't just that she achieved success, it's how she navigated the obstacles along the way. As a woman entering the male dominated world of storage auctions, she faced constant skepticism. Is she really serious about this business? Can she actually negotiate? Is she just here for show? We've all heard those whispers in our own lives, haven't we? Those voices questioning our legitimacy, our capability, our right to be in space we've chosen for ourselves. I remember watching an episode where Brandy outbid several veteran buyers on a storage unit that looked worthless to the untrained eye. The cameras caught the smirks, the eye rolls, the dismissive comments from her competitors. But when that unit yielded a collection of vintage items worth nearly 10 times what she paid, those same smirks transformed into expressions of grudging respect. Brandy didn't let those voices define her story. Instead, she leaned into the perseverance instilled by her upbringing. She honed her negotiation skills. She embraced opportunities that pushed her far outside her comfort zone. The result? She became one of the most beloved personalities on a hit television show, and her entrepreneurial spirit opened doors to media opportunities beyond what she could have imagined. But here's what I find most compelling about stories like Brandy's: they remind us that resilience isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about actively rewriting your narrative when the original plot doesn't serve you anymore. This brings me to another remarkable woman I learned about, Brandi Moles, who embodies what I call the ultimate bounce back. Here was a woman facing the double challenge of financial instability, after leaving traditional employment while also navigating the intense pressures of new motherhood. Talk about a plot twist you didn't see coming. Many would look at that situation and think, well, I guess this is my life now. I'll just have to make the best of these limitations. But Brandy refused to accept that narrative. Instead, she did something revolutionary. She aligned three critical elements: her mindset, what she believed was possible, her physical well being, how she cared for herself during this challenging time, and her business strategy, how she would actually generate income. Within 1 year, just 365 days, she built a six-figure online business. Let that sink in for a moment. From struggling to thriving in 12 months. Not because her circumstances were ideal, not because she had some secret advantage, but because she understood something fundamental about resilience. It's not just about bouncing back to where you were before. It's about bouncing forward to somewhere better than you've ever been. I remember her telling me about a particularly dark night, sitting at her kitchen table after her baby had finally fallen asleep, staring at a bank account that was dwindling far too quickly. I had two choices, she said. I could either believe this was as good as it would get, or I could believe tomorrow could be different if I made different choices today. She chose the latter. And that choice, that single moment of deciding her story wasn't over, changed everything. Now I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's great for her, but my situation is different. I don't have the resources slash connection slash privilege slash time slash energy to make that kind of transformation. And that brings me to our third remarkable entrepreneur, Brandi Roberts, whose story directly challenges that kind of thinking. Brandi didn't start with generational wealth. She didn't have the connections typically associated with entrepreneurial success. As a Black professional, she faced barriers that many others don't: limited access to capital, mentorship gaps, and systemic bias. But rather than accepting these limitations as the end of her story, she educated herself on credit building strategies. She leveraged financial tools often overlooked by underrepresented founders. She built networks intentionally and strategically. The outcome? She established several profitable ventures that created not only personal freedom for herself, but also jobs and opportunities within her community. There's a moment in Brandi Roberts' journey that particularly moves me. She describes walking into a bank where, just 3 years earlier, she had been denied a small business loan. This time, she wasn't there to ask for money. She was there to open accounts for her third successful business. The same loan officer who had rejected her application was now eagerly offering her premium services. The difference, Brandi told me, wasn't that I became a different person. It's that I refused to let that initial no be the final word on my story. What these three women show us is that resilience isn't a personality trait you either have or don't have. It's a skill you can develop, a muscle you can strengthen, a practice you can perfect. And that brings me to what I believe is the most important insight from my conversation with Brandi Moles: resilience and reinvention are possible at any stage of your journey. Let me say that again because it's worth repeating. Resilience and reinvention are possible at any stage of your journey. You haven't missed your window. You haven't wasted too much time. You haven't made too many mistakes. The page is still blank enough to write something new. But, and this is crucial, you don't have to do it alone. In fact, trying to do it alone might be the very thing holding you back. All three of these remarkable women understood something vital about transformation. Community and support make the impossible possible. Brandi Moles didn't rebuild her life in isolation. She connected with mentors, joined communities of like minded entrepreneurs, and created systems of mutual support. Brandi Passante didn't navigate the male dominated world of storage auctions and reality TV as a lone wolf. She built strategic partnerships and leveraged the wisdom of those who had walked similar paths. And Brandy Roberts didn't overcome systemic barriers by sheer individual willpower. She intentionally created networks that filled the gaps left by traditional systems of support. This challenges one of our most cherished cultural myths, the self made success story. We love to believe in the lone genius, the solitary visionary, who, through sheer force of will, transforms their life and changes the world. But that's rarely how transformation actually happens. Real change, sustainable change, happens in community. It happens when we're brave enough to ask for help, wise enough to receive it, and generous enough to offer it to others. As Maya Angelou so powerfully said, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. So, where does this leave us? What do we do with these insights about resilience, reinvention, and community? I believe it starts with a simple but profound shift in how we think about our stories. Your past is real, it happened, it shaped you. But it is not a prison sentence. It is not a prophecy. It is not the final word on who you are or what you can become. Your past is simply the opening chapters of a book you're still writing. And here's the beautiful truth: you have more authorial control than you might think. So I challenge you today, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, to make a declaration of independence from the story you've been told about yourself, to stand up and claim your right to write what happens next. Find that one area where past experiences or other people's opinions have limited your vision. Name it, confront it, and then with deliberate intention, begin to dismantle it. Send that email, make that call, sign up for that course, write that business plan, tell someone your dream out loud. Do one thing today that the old story said you couldn't do. Because here's what I know for certain: every time you act against the limitations of your old narrative, you're not just changing your circumstances, you're literally rewiring your brain to recognize new possibilities. And as you do this, as you take these brave steps forward, remember to build your community, find your people, create your support system, because the revolution of your life will not be a solo act. It will be a magnificent collaboration. The world is waiting for the story only you can write, not the one handed to you by circumstance or dictated by others' expectations, but the one you craft with courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief that your best chapters are still ahead. Your life is not a fixed narrative, it is a blank page awaiting your next bold stroke. What will you write today?